Welcome, everybody, to Greeting Mashiach. Today, we have a very special guest, Rabbi Tzvi Homnick. He is going to tell us about himself. And I guess, Rabbi Homnick, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, and we'll start from there.
Okay. I grew up in a from American family. Both my parents were born in America. One of my four grandparents was born in America. We grew up. My father was a Talmud of many well-known yeshivas, primarily Chaim Berlin, and so we grew up. What would be the designation of yeshivish hadn't yet fully taken form at the time, but we were kind of American / yeshivish, so we all went to standard yeshivas, what for us is standard, and so did I. So I went to yeshivas like Tervadas, Chaim Berlin, Mir, ended up in Lakewood. So I grew up in the first years we lived in East Flatbush before the neighborhood turned and we moved to Flatbush. So there was some exposure to Lubavitch. When my father was off from work, he would go for minyan. The local minyanim were only 7:30. Maybe the latest one would be 8. So when he was off from work, he would go to 7:70 for the Chapa minyan. So he was there many times, especially like Chalamoid, things like that. My father told me that for my Hachnasa L'Cheder, he took me to Reb Michael Teitelbaum. So I actually, of all the kids, I actually had a Chabad connection from the earliest lick of honey. So maybe that was started all the problems. But later I was in Alitara day camps as a kid because a lot of not Lubavitch kids were there. In fact, the years that I was there, all the counselors were not Lubavitch also. Because all the Lubavitch Rebbe wanted to go on shlichus. And whenever the Lamets, the Rebbe said a sicha, the Danhola complained, parents complained, the Rebbe said a sicha that being a counselor is also shlichus. So the last year I went to that day camp was the year when all the Lubavitchers took over and everything became like hyper Lubavitch, and that was like a little too much. That was like the last year, but we went, so we went every year. I would usually go like maybe half a summer to day camp and half a summer to sleepaway camp. So we went to Rebbe for Mincha, we went to the day camp, we went to got dimes, so I saw the Rebbe as a kid. I saw 770 as a kid. I had many unpleasant interactions with the Lubavitchers as a kid. Whatever, it wasn't completely foreign territory, but it wasn't something that I felt connected to. And then, so how I got to Chassidus is kind of bizarre because my story and my journey is not like anybody else's, mostly because I'm just weird. But
we think you're great.
It was
yes, we do.
My personal spiritual issues. I wasn't didn't have questions, and I was looking for answers. I wasn't looking to join something and belong in anything. I didn't get see a mitzvah tank, get all excited, and that wasn't what spoke to me. That wasn't what I related to. My own personal journey had to do more with, again, something which most people, I realized pretty early on that most people were not struggling with that issue. It's going to sound weird to say because, like I said, most people won't relate to it. As a kid, even from the youngest ages, I was struggling with the fact that the spiritual side of me and the material side of me were very far apart. So I could have very high spiritual highs, and then felt like coming down from them, I was like very painful for me. So when I started learning Chassidus, and I was learning my Marim about the Ratzav V'Shoiv, and I was learning my Marim about the B'nai Aaron.
How did you first get exposed to learning Marim?
Those Marim spoke to me. I mean, because that was other people. They, you try to explain to them what it means, and it's just like words, Ratzav V'Shoiv. What's the Ratzav? What's the Shoiv? They're like looking for descriptions. For me, it was the other way around. To me, my whole whatever struggles I had with Yiddishkeit had nothing to do with believing in the Eibishter, had nothing to do with being aware of the Eibishter in my life. It had nothing to do with that wasn't it. In fact, when I was a very young bach, starting from a very young age, somehow guys who had in yeshivas, guys who had questions about Emunah, naturally gravitated to me because I don't know.
How'd you figure it out?
No, I didn't have it figured out. When the guy would come to me with a question, I would say to him, listen, I don't know what you're going through because I don't know what that means to have a question. It's just never something I had from when I'm a very little kid. I don't know what it is, but you're having it, so I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to work with you. It wasn't like I had all the answers. It was the other way. It was like I just never really got the question, but I got the fact that some people have it. It wasn't a thing for me. I remember once some older younger man in one of the yeshivas I was in, some other younger man was trying to carve me, and he thought like he saw I was struggling with, so he thought maybe he's gonna want to talk to me. He asked if I had any questions in Amunah. I said, what Amunah? What I said, what? No, not at all. I said, if you know anybody with questions in Amunah, you can send them to me. I have no questions in Amunah. I have to figure out if I can get along with God. I have to figure out how much, if I can, live. The way I said it was, I have to figure out how, if I like him or not. Not if he's around. That's not my issue.
He exists. You believe in him, but
totally freaked him out because he was like a standard, very from the Lubavitch. He became a very
never
famous,
heard these ideas.
He became a very famous Maggid Shir, and then he's a mashpia in the Lubavitch belt. He's not like a small guy, and he was just like he had no words. It was just like he never heard anything like that. So like I said, it wasn't you want to say Achsidish Neshama Achsidish. I have no idea what the words for it are because, like I said, we're a weirdo. That's another word for it. I just don't know. But so to me, what I was looking when I knew a lot about different Hasidism, including Chabad, from the side, a lot. But what an outsider knows, a lot, not a lot. And at some point, I realized that I knew about this idea of his yashvus, which again, like I said, most people, it's just another word in the books that they learn. And but I got it. I knew the concept, and I just didn't know what that looks like in real life, what that means to actually be connected, but in a way that you're not flying off the handle, and you're not flying up, and you're not crashing down, and you're not. So I davened a lot, and the Hashgacha practice. I had been in Eretz Yisrael as a younger man. Then we came back when my son was born, and a year later I went back for the winter of Tafshin and Aleph. We ended up we thought we were going to be there for the whole winter. Then my sister-in-law became a kala, and we made the tickets earlier. And then the tickets were like a week after the deadline for the Gulf War. So they said, if you want to leave, you have to leave now. So I ended up leaving I was one of those guys in the airports leaving before the Gulf War, but not because that was I went after Saddam Hussein went into, it wasn't like, I didn't go, everyone was going the other way. I was going towards Eretz. That wasn't my problem. But, and Bashkara Pratis, at that time, one of the things that I did was I would look to find an empty base medrash, and that's where I hung out. Bashkach Pratis, the place where I rented an apartment, the nearest empty Beis Medrash was a Chabad Beis Medrash. So it's a Tuvi Blois shul in Sanhedria, Pagi, as it was called. And so I was sitting in an empty Chabad shul.
Rabbi Homnick, before you continue, can I ask you what years about is this taking place? What year is this?
So I'm saying, as a Nun Aleph is when I really started to. I think in Mem Tes, what happened was when we came back from Eretz Yisrael, I was really going through some coming off some spiritual highs, and I was really freaked out about the whole experience. And I decided that as a segula, I did it purely as a segula. It was right before Pesach, Tavshin Mem Tes. I decided as a segula, I'm going to read. I'm not going to try to learn it. I'm just going to read the whole Tanya from beginning to end. And that's what I did. And I guess also that had some kind of an effect, because by Elul Tavshin Nun, which is when I went back to Eretz Yisrael, and Elul Tavshin Nun, so I found myself in this empty Chabad Beis Medrash with all the Svarim there, and I decided to do a deeper dive, including a lot of this Sefer HaTorah and sichos of the Friedrich Rebbe, and they had like an extensive collection. I did a lot of the Arumic Svarim. I also knew about some of the inside stuff, and I wanted to see. I from experience, I knew I don't want to just see the sugar-coated stuff. I want to see what they say for real. So I picked myself up a copy of Ramach Isis, which was at that time considered like the real, stuff that was not for public consumption. And I went through that. I wanted to know what it's all about. What happened was, a few weeks after Sukkot, there was a Fitcher often had an afternoon Kail for Chassidus that had been going on in the shul in Shikon Chabad, and for some reason it wasn't working out. They would have minyanim there all the time in the winter. The minyanim are earlier for Mincha. The Mincha times are earlier, so he moved it to this shul. So I was sitting on one side doing my own thing, and they were sitting and learning. He was learning Samach Vav with them and giving. They were learning together, Chavrusis and giving shurim, but we kind of interacted. I sat in on his shurim. I attended a farbrengen of his in one of the Younger Lights homes on Hanukkah. I had a shtickle connection with Gershom Mendel Aftzen from Eretz Yisrael, who was, I knew him already from before. He was trying to work on me, so I used to shmooze with him. That was a whole other parsha. So I skipped the thing. When I was in Eretz Yisrael in Memches, the whole elections thing started, and I was very upset and very offended by the attacks against the Rebbe. Even though I consider myself a misnagid. I didn't even consider myself parav. I considered myself a misnagid to Lubavitch. But it disturbed me very much. So I would go sit in the Shikha Chabad shul, and I got to know Gershom Mendel Aftzen there. I asked him what are some of the easier things that people. He told me, he gave me beginner things. So I owned already. Even before that, I had for myself Borachitas, but I owned so I had already Kuntrus Tefillah, Kuntrus Aveda, Kuntrus Eitzachayim. I had the Derech Mitzvah. I was the Torah I had from before, because that was also an interesting Ashkacha practice that when we first got married, so before we moved to Eretz Yisrael, we took one of these temporary apartments, like one of these basements for Chas and Kala, and there was a shtibel across the street, and I would go there to generic to the shtibel, not and I would go there for Shabbos morning davening. I went there, whatever 9:30, whatever the davening was. And Punt Bashkacha Pratis, there was a Lakut Torah there. And I used to enjoy, Ben Gavra Legavra, I used to just time I would because I always I always enjoyed looking in other svarim. I always enjoyed. So it was also Bashkach brothers that was Tzahant. So when I got married and I went there, so one of these I bought a Torah and the Torah. I bought a Chitas. I bought later there. So I like I said, I was familiar with some of the concepts. I had a good friend in Lakewood who used to try to schlep me to Lubavitch events. And he gave me, back then in Lakewood, he gave me the Kuntres in Yana Shel Teres Achsidus, which, I was very impressed by.
Yeah, that's a revolutionary time.
Yeah. I know that, okay, this is big stuff. That's probably why I was as offended as I was in Tafshim Ches. So
Right.
as a macha against my own world where I was coming from, I was hanging out in the shul during the craziness that was going on. So whatever. That's what I'm saying. It's hard. It's like a weird journey. It's like hard to describe because nothing.
Right. It sounds very much that there was little snippets here and there, and then it came into
There's no big reveal. There's no big moment. There's no big.
Right. So I wanna I guess fast forward to the year, to specifically. I mean, talking about Mashiach. I want to know exactly where you were, I guess, Chav Ches Nisan, when you heard about the sicha, or if you were in Karnaitz when you heard the sicha. What your feeling was and then if you can go from Chav Ches Nisan and go into all the sichos of the rest of the year Nun Aleph, and then into the sichos of Nun Beis, if you can touch on that.
Okay, so basically what happened was, so at that time when I started getting serious about it, when I came back to America, and so I did that first Shabbos we came back was the Shabbos of Parshas B'ay Tafshin and Aleph, and I set out to walk to Crown Heights for my in-laws. I would wanted to go earlier, but my wife said, they were nervous. I'm walking into a bad neighborhood, and believe me, in those days, literally, I once tried to take a car service there, and the guy would not drive through the park. He wouldn't, this. It was,
wow.
Now, later they ended up closing the park, but it used to be to drivers.
Which park?
Prospect Park used to be.
Driver cars were able to drive through.
Yeah. The car service went he was terrified to even drive through the park at night. It was but I set out Shabbos day. I set out, and two of Simcha's father's friends. I have the Ashkach brothers. I bumped into them on the way, and Stroh and Steinmetz, and I was just walking in that general direction. I had no idea where I was going. I hadn't been there in years. I didn't know. I figured I'll walk towards the direction of Prospect Park, see what happens. So they got me there. So it was also that was a little bit of a shtickle powerful moment because when I got in, there was no place to squeeze in. There was no place to get because they had made the room smaller and tighter because they didn't want the Rebbe to strain his voice. So they made the area with the bleachers and everything. They made it much smaller. So to try to find a place, basically there was not. We came late. I came, so there was no chance of anything of business. So I decided I came to see the Rebbe. This is this Gulf War started. I came to see the Rebbe. I heard everything that I had to say about the Gulf War. I came to see the Rebbe. I'm going to see the Rebbe. So I climbed up the bleachers that were with the back to the Aron Kodesh, those bleachers. And so I had 1 foot on those bleachers and 1 foot on the bleachers on the end of the dais and holding on with the one. And so basically I was hanging in midair. The clean-shaven nut who showed up out of nowhere and is hanging in midair between the two bleachers. And but that's it. I decided if I came. This is what. And so the famous part of the sicha, which the Rebbe said that they should not review and that they should not publish about Bush and Saddam Hussein and finishing him off. So the way the Rebbe said that sicha was he turned in his seat to the right. And he looked right at me. I was between, I was in the empty space. That was where the empty space was. He was looking at the people, at the crowd. He was looking, I was in the empty space. So he's looking right at me. And that's what the Rebbe was saying this whole piece. And I could hear more of the words. I couldn't hear most of the words of what the Rebbe was saying in Farbrengen, but I could hear a lot more of the words when the Rebbe was saying that it like used a stronger voice and was looking right at me. So that was one kind of spooky experience. So like I said, so at that time I was basically I would showing up Sundays for dollars, and once in a Yovel, every couple of weeks I would maybe walk in for the Shabbos or bring him, because it meant staying till after Shabbos, and it meant like a whole. My wife, we had a young child. It wasn't like not something she was used to, grew up with. It was and so this is Nun Aleph. Hold on one second. So I'm going. Oh, so the thing is like this. So how I got the new Farbrengen every week was I would go to the candy store under the train tracks to buy the new Kvar Chabad to get the new sicha. That's how So that's how I kept up to the regular kudus you get in the shuls. The shuls that would throw them in the shemus, so I knew where to find the. Sorry to disappoint all the guys who are doing this amazing hafatza, but I used to get a lot of stuff out of the shemus of shuls that the Gabe would come in for the people and toss them in the shemus. Some shuls not, and later actually it wasn't as bad as back then. But so I came, so I would go through the weekly sicha, and nobody taught me how to filter the Rebbe out. What he means for real, what he doesn't mean for real. The Lubavitchers seem to have some kind of special insight.
Yeah, there is definitely so to speak, a code where by dollars or sichos, the Rebbe's expression.
Each one has his own homemade.
Right.
So each one has his homemade filtration system, like what not, what's for real, what's not, what's mechayev, what's not mechayev, what's just the Rebbe talking in Indian. There's such a thing as talking in Indian. I didn't know any of that stuff. So to me, I'm reading this stuff and I'm freaking out because just like if this is real, then this is wild stuff.
So on that note, can you talk specifically what your impression was on Chavches, what the Sicha of Totals?
So I was not present. I missed it.
Right, but learning the Sicha. If you can remember.
I can, but it wasn't as earth-shattering for me as if it was probably for people who had this whole philosophy of, whatever their pre-existing philosophy was. But I understood that it was a big moment, and so I came to all that sifas they made afterwards about what to do, and I did sign on Kabbalah Samalchus. About it was a few weeks after I stopped shaving, I signed on a Kabbalah Samalchus. That Pesach, I didn't. When you don't shave for Sfira, so after that Pesach, I didn't start shaving again. So that was like that's how much of a beard I had at the time. So yeah, I was I understood that this was a wake up call. I didn't quite. Relate to how everybody else was, how the Lubavitch reaction was.
So your Isyashvas was kicking in.
No, I had the ganze spilus of what was going on, but it was just the idea that I don't think we're getting the message that the Rebbe is demanding something of us in a real sense. Everybody was sort of turning it around to how are we, the Rebbe is demanding of us to sort of somehow trick him into doing it. Not trick him, but
it was all about finding a kunz.
Yeah, like we have to somehow come up with a chap that's going to force him to do it. I remember later, sitting at a Farbrengen with a certain well-known Moshiach activist was Farbrengen that that in Beth Israel they should take the Rebbe's bed and throw it out the window, and that way the Rebbe will have to get up and redeem clothes. So whatever. This was really people had this very strong feeling. It was so even as they were saying, chazering how the Rebbe saying, don't put it on me, it's on you, but they still had, it's on me to put it on you. It was always, it always ended up being turned around to, and I saw this sichos as they came out afterwards. I said, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I literally did not know anybody. Nobody, nothing. I was not into. It was just me in a basement and sitting in a basement of a shul in Barbach, or sitting alone somewhere. This was I did not know anybody. Maybe in that period of time, maybe a total of 3 people said Shalom Aleichem to me in about a year and a half. Me draying in Lubavitch, starting without a beard and then showing up. I came for Bashana, Yom Kippur, and Beis. I came with a non-Lubavitch talus and a silver Torah on it, and so total outreach to strangers wandering into 770. I think I got 3 Shalom Aleichems. Maybe 4. I don't want to. I'm saying it was like I do know about it, so I'm just like an observer. The whole thing is I'm just watching this thing unfold, and I saw what the Rebbe said in Parshas Shmini and Tazria Mitzvah. By the way, what happened was I saw everybody was saying Chav Ches Nissen was out of the blue, but I had learned the Sich of Chavav Nissen, and the Sich of Chavav Nissen, the Rebbe was screaming. I did about storming about how you're talking that people aren't going wild about the Nissen, and how come they're not dancing in the street? And then afterwards, right afterwards, Menachem Galitsky started a circle out in the street, and they danced a little bit in the street. But it was like, and when I saw the Chav Ches Nissen, it was to me like, it's just he's saying, you haven't been listening to me. Not, it was like, a new thing out of the blue. It was, well, if you were following what I said up till now,
wow,
you should have been, out in the streets. You should have been changing your inner worlds and your outer worlds and getting ready for the main event. And people were just like, wow, isn't the Rebbe amazing? And the Rebbe says, I know I'm amazing. I didn't come to this world to more people to know that I'm amazing. I came here to get you to do what you need to do. So whatever. So I saw it. So on one hand, I was very caught up in it. I was in it. I was a part of it. But on the other hand, I would look at the side and say, like, that's it. People. I would come to a Farbrengen, and the whole Farbrengen would be how the Rebbe is everything and we're nothing. Okay. But the Rebbe said, the whole point that the Rebbe is trying to say is, I get it. I know you're nothing. Fine. But I'm giving you all these kaiches to now you nothing, do something. I'm giving you the kaiches. So don't stop being a nothing in terms of what you do. You could be a nothing for yourself. So if you're such a nothing and therefore you don't want to have any hanoah from Eilam Haza, or you're a nothing that you want to indulge in Eilam Haza, which kind of nothing are you? If you're kind of nothing, the mamash succumb to the garden, it's fine, great, but there's something you need to do. And the people, very sincere people, are very. I'm not knocking anybody. I saw people mamash that tremendous personal self-sacrifice and tremendous devotion and tremendous. But they were barking up a tree that I thought is the tree that the Rebbe is saying, this ain't the tree.
And you would, and by these Farbrengens that you were sitting by, you would voice your.
I never said a word.
You were just an observer.
Right. At some point they started coming to the. It was costing me a ton of money because my wife and mother-in-law would not let me take trains. So car services then was, not like they are today. The price of Ubers and car services today is insane, but then it was still not cheap for that time. And so to go at night meant car services. To get a car service in Crown Heights at night was almost impossible. You'd have to stand out on the street and wave a guy down. So you would have all these guys, White Pearl and all of those other black car services. You'd wave a guy down, and sometimes he would say yes and thank you. So it was costing me a ton of money. I started going to the Siyumei Harambams. So I did get to know the regulars there. But at that time, the Siyumei Harambams, even though they were small, but because of the hookup, and people all around the world really listened in to that hookup then, because that was their connection to 770. So anybody,
Menachem Grilitzky's Siyam Rambam?
yeah, it was a big thing, because anybody who was a guest in town came. I mean, people like Manas Friedman came and spoke at the.
What type of stuff was Rabbi Manas Friedman saying at the time?
In other words, because if you're in town and you want to be heard by the shluchim around the world,
that's where you went. That was the address.
Place. So you heard anybody who was anybody and was in town, it would come. And plenty of guys who probably didn't pass for them. They're too great and too awesome to sit with them. But almost everybody who was anybody at that time, would come and Fabring, and I would hear, so I would hear all the stories. I would hear the people. I remember actually very close to each other. At that time was this whole new thing. But that was no. You know what? The truth is that I was doing that more later in Membeis and in Gimmel. But I did start in the summer of '12 because I remember that they made me stop going when the riots broke out. So I had already been doing it. My mother-in-law forbade me to go. My wife and mother-in-law forbade me to go when the riots were going on. So I did go once anyway, but but yeah, I didn't. So, I really.
So can we? So I want to I guess shift the conversation and focus on more starting with Noach, Vayera, Chayesara, all when these sichos are coming out, and I'm assuming you weren't there Shabbos, but you were hearing the sichos, or you were seeing this, learning the sichos after.
Like I said, occasionally I would go there Shabbos, but mostly I was just getting
right. So what I guess. What was your impressions and reactions to the
when I knew the weeks that I knew it was in Yiddish, I would make sure to get a Yiddish copy to see it in the original, not the translation. So the thing is like this. Let me jump ahead to Rosh Chodesh Kislev, after the first Rosh Chodesh Kislev after Gimmel Tammuz. So at this time, I had already started speaking. I was speaking. I spoke in. I was I spoke in the Zal and in Alatera. I spoke in Maristan. I spoke in numerous other places in 770. There was the tkufa that I was like speaking a lot about in Want Moshiach Now. I spoke on a hookup for shluchim, arranged by the shluchim. It wasn't shluchim office then, but it was whatever. It was that.
What did he say to the shluchim?
So this was, I was like the new kid in town. This is the outsider who's with a Kachem Mashiach, and sort of people felt is actually able to explain some things that others were. Before I did that, I'll jump backwards now for a second. I was going through all the sichos, and I started going to all the mashpiyim in Lubavitch and saying, "Why are you talking this way when the sichos are saying something different?" And they said, "Well, how do you understand this?" So I spent hours with all the names that going through what it says. So they said, okay. So they said to me, "You know what? Go talk to Rabbi. He's the one that's running the Mahalach. Everyone's following him. You talk to him." So I set up a meeting with him, and nobody believed me afterwards.
What year is this?
This is Tafshin and Gimel. And I sat with Rabbi Khan. This was Pesach time, Tafshin and Gimel. I sat with him for 4 hours in his house. Wow. There are people that afterwards didn't believe me that he gave me 4 hours. Sat for 4 hours. I went through sicha after sicha after sicha. I said to him, "You're coming with a message. You're the guy. Nobody comes to you to hear about Amunah. Everybody comes to you to hear about Hasbara and Sechel. Nobody comes to you to hear about Amunah. They're about Amunah. They have all kinds of other guys who that's their specialty. Everyone comes to you to hear Hasbara. And all you're telling them is, your message is, I don't have Hasbara. It's all Amunah. So when you tell them I don't have Hasbara, that means, and all your Hasbara is why there's no Hasbara and it's Amunah. So you could give long drashas with Hezberim, but the Hezberim always came back to the fact that we don't understand. So I said, the message is that, it's not in this world. It's something out of this world. It's something that doesn't make sense to us. It's something that, So he said, so what do you think? So he, by the way, he never spoke to me afterwards again. more than 30 seconds ever. No, literally, I did 30 seconds max. He gave me. He was like, there was no. He wrote an article against part of what I was saying, actually, in Krachabat under his pseudonym. But he did start including in his talks a lot of the points that we covered, a lot of the points that we discussed. So, definitely there was a shift. And so that's like I said, in Undalit is when I started becoming more of a. I actually went public, so that was around Yud Shvat, Tafshin Undalit. And so let me tell you about the talk that I gave on Rosh Chodesh Shvat. So Rosh Chodesh Shvat is the first Rosh Chodesh Shvat after Gimmel Tammuz. So Meir Harlig, the whole place is people are completely, lost. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of sides. There's court cases starting. There's things going on. Nobody knew what's what. Tishrei was like deserted. You can't even imagine what Tishrei looked like. People who were there before, people who were there, a few years later, can't imagine what Tishrei was like in Nun Hey and even somewhat in above. But in Nun Hey, it was like really. So there's Rosh Chodesh Shvat. The Meir Harlig is not making a suda for Rosh Chodesh Shvat. So the Gabayim. At that time, Menachem Galitzky was one of the Gabayim, but whatever, the Gabayim arranged Rosh Chodesh Shvat. I'm saying. So, so it was set up that way with the, the beam in the back and Meir, the way, that little platform there in the back. And I spoke at this Rosh Chodesh Shvat thing. So I'll tell you a little bit the title of what I spoke, and you see, we go back. If you want to go back to specific sichos, you go back to specific sichos. Basically, the title that I spoke was that I saw a lot more signs of it later than even I knew about then. But the Rebbe's, even before the Nesias, the Rebbe would write to people that the Friedrich Rebbe gave jobs for outreach. And the Rebbe would say, and they would be kvetching, of course. You could be, I had no time for learning, davening. I came to be a chassid. I didn't come to be running around being a malamed for schlepping little kids. But it's very fascinatingly, you see the answers that the Rebbe is writing for those people who are out on these different kinds of shlichusim of the Friedrich Rebbe. The Rebbe's kav was that do it like Rebbe Parach. That he said everything he does is also best leg in Avar Chassidus. You should know that Nasa Meiche V'Libe Zachim Elef Panam Kacha. Why are you talking about why are you talking about you doing this instead of that? What do you mean? You're getting a tremendous leverage here. Of Meiche V'Libe Zachim Elef Panam Kacha. You're a Bill Parach. You traveled, did all those things that he did. He says also best leg in Avar Chassidus. That's the way you should do it. No one's telling you not chassidus. And the Rebbe used that kav, even at the beginning of the Nesias, the Rebbe still spoke in such oaths. In later years, not as openly and as frequently, but in later years also, there were times, so I was quoting from the Sefer HaShlichus. There were two Maduras. One was of the early years and then came out with all the later Mugadik sichos to the Shlochim and so on. But in some of the language that the Rebbe used, was about where the Rebbe spoke about. He doesn't understand that he's telling everybody that the shlichus makes Meicher Libe Zachem Elef Panam Kacha. But what do they think that if you have to use it, if you have that mind, you have that heart, you have to use it. It's not going to magically do it by itself. We're giving you these unbelievable tools, and you got to use them. So I quoted a lot of those things that the Rebbe said. Maybe Achar Shel Pesach Lamed Dalet about what it means to be a tamim in response to Rashag's question about is it true what they're saying that now Lubavitch is about outreach and it's not about Torah Avodah. So and that's and the Rebbe Mamish spoke very, very strong that it's only about Torah and Avodah. The outreach is a part of the Torah and Avodah. So I said, Lamaisa, yes, very nice. The Rebbe spoke those things, but Lamaisa practice gered. The Olam did not take it as it was said. The Olam takes it. The average guy takes it as a stira, and he's picking outreach work instead of the other word. That's it. And that doesn't mean one guy will open a sefer more, one guy will open a sefer less, one guy will give more shiurim, one guy will give less shiurim. But the idea was, the idea as it is, in real world terms, except for maybe some singular exceptions, there was one said have one shliach who davens, there was one said about Gurkov in Massachusetts. The Rebbe said it was not. There was it was, and
it wasn't the rule.
And the Rebbe did not at any point, so I said, if you look at the sichos of an Aleph and an Beis, I think the Rebbe is telling us he's not going to Mashiach as the Rebbe who failed to make chassidim that are chassidim of chassidus and that are only chassidim of outreach. That's it. I don't think that's the plan. I don't think that was the Mesiras Nefesh of the Alter Rebbe on Yutas Kislev. And I don't think that was the Mesiras Nefesh of all the Rabbeim. He's letting you know, if you go through the sichos of an Aleph and an Beis, he's letting you know that no, it's not enough you have to represent. You can't just present, you can't just you have to represent, you have to be what you're teaching. And the Rebbe, I mean, that was the Maimer about the Tzava, that was all the sichos. Sure, occasionally, people will pick a lashon from a sicha here, and then the next day or two, the Rebbe said, how do you chid? People pick out a lashon from the Noach Tavshin Beis and read it a certain way. I said, and then a few days later, the Rebbe had the Yechidus for Bachram and said that it should be upgraded by a Bacha as a Dava Pasha, that he needs to know Kal Terakula. That was that should be. And by the way, something which when the Rebbe was asked in earlier years, famously, Hertz from England wanted to come up with a program that how Bachram could go through Shas at least once, and when he brought it to the Rebbe said, "Weißt du, nicht zu viel halten bei that." That's what the Rebbe, he had a program, how he's going to do it, a Girsa program, and how he's going to. So and then the Rebbe turns around. The Rebbe is telling you, if you're learning Pshat, that I'm saying less Torah and less Avodah, and more, whatever it is, more tefillin, more Neiros Shabbos, more jumping up and down and screaming, more whatever the more is. But if it's you think that I'm not talking about more Torah and Avodah, which I told you in Shabbos Parsha Shmini, that's what I'm talking about. Tazria Mitzera, I also was really saying that. Somehow you managed to only figure out from Tazria Mitzera that I was saying that Chassidim say about that Rebbe that he's Mashiach. Fine, you managed to get that. But that's not what I was saying. Fine. In each sicha, you took out what you wanted to take out, what fit your narrative. But I'm not saying, that's what, but again, I don't want to come across like I'm saying that I'm promoting frumkeit. I'm not promoting religion. I'm not promoting religion here. What I'm telling you is that Sfiras HaMalchus is the whole point of Geula is that in the language of Chassidus, that Sfiras HaMalchus goes from a Nekuda to being a parts of Shalom that's not only Shava b'Shava and Panim b'Panim with Zabaila, but it's Oila Lamaila, and it's it's all about the Chayzer. You want to talk Haskalah the Geises? The power of the Chayzer is not that you just have like the Mitzrayim, you just have the Amunah and everything else is in the toilet. It's that like the Rebbe says about the Tzava. You take that Nekuda of that the Rebbe is awaking in you, that Mashiach is something that's in your kishkas, right? That's not something you accomplished through Avodah. So the Rebbe is waking up something in you. Now take that and actualize it in all of your keiches, because that's the power of Archeza, of the Kesem, of Mata L'mayla. The power of that is that not that you have less Giloyim. No. The earlier generations had higher Giloyim mitzad Yasher, because they're higher, they're closer to the source of the light. They get more light, they have more light. Your power doesn't come from there. You're at the end. You're the heels. You're dead. Dead man walking. That's the heel is the Malach HaMavet Shabbatim. You're fine. We got it. You don't have a heart. You don't have a head. You don't have a heart. Fine. But you have the koyach. You have the koyach of beichim is the libay zachem elf pam kach. You have the koyach of the erchayze. The koyach of the erchayze is contrary to is different than Aryasha in that it's not exciting. It's not exciting. What it is you do it. As you do, you don't have these dramatic change experiences and like transformative experiences. When you do, then at some point you like look back and you say, "Oh wow, look where I am." I would have never thought I would end up here, but yeah, look at that. So the guy who started out with barely, so the guys who did it in shlichus, that a lot of people have done it. They started out and just kept going, and now they look back and say, wow, if you would have told me 20 years ago when I started out that I would have these buildings and I would have this and I would have, I would have thought you were dreaming. It's not these, major epiphanies and revelations. It's again, it's just the reality itself aligns with the truth. So same thing in Avodah Pnimis. It sounds like people think, because I can't meditate for 5 hours, so I don't meditate for 5 minutes either. I don't even meditate. I mean, I haven't thought about some of the most basic yesodus of chassidus. I haven't spent 5 minutes. I was once somebody invited me to give a shiur during a certain tkufa when there was like a whole group of bachrim that were considered like top bachrim learning in 770 in one shot. It was like big heads and big this. So the guy invited me. This one went off to college, one went off to this, to that. It was, and this guy invited me to give him a Moshiach shiur, and he said, "But this is not. No, this is it is not gonna. This is not a rah. It's just guys want to hear rah rah rah. You're gonna have to give them real schedule." So I said, "Okay." I showed up. So the first thing I asked, they said, "You're familiar with there's a long way and a short way in Tanya." And basically, the short way is from chapter 18 through 25. So all that was this. You need to know that this really, 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 really works, and it works like 100%. It's not like you're going to mamish do your Torah mitzvahs with absolute love and fear of Hashem. Real, it's your hidden love. It's not something that you built up yourself. That's why the Rebbe explains it's not can't be two separate paths. It has to be incorporated into one. But basically, all the Rebbe says, that's it. It's do or die. Everything is either you're accepting God's oneness or you're rejecting God's oneness. And because you're ready to die, rather than reject God's oneness, you're all in. And when you remind yourself how you're all in with God, so I said, I've heard you guys are, serious knackers and this. I'm curious. Did you once in your life spend 5 minutes? This is the way. Right? You go through chitas and we promote Tanya learning around the world. Did you ever once? It could be you did 5 hours. You don't have to. I'm not saying. Do you ever do in one sitting at least 5 minutes about? And they all like look at each other a little embarrassed, and they're like. So I think I'm not knocking anybody. I think people are amazing, and people are sincere, and people want to do the right thing. I think people are being misled. I don't think they're in any way bad. I think people are being, or not smart enough to see the truth. It has to do with not being smart. It has to do with there's a culture and there's an environment, and people are so now. Maybe there's a split, so you can pick which environment you relate to more. But which collective approach of thinking. The idea that, like I said, I don't think that Rebbe is going to the Gula with Leidige Kaplan and Taita Herz. I think he wants people who come with the whole package. I think that's what he told us, and and all those things. I think that's what he let us know about the time. That's what he told the Shluchim and Parshas Chayei. That's
Pshat Chayei. That's Pshat Kabbalas Pnei that you should greet Mashiach. You should greet him properly.
That's the Keiches
HaNefesh. I'm not showing up to meet a bunch of guys who are not showing up with real Seder. I'm not.
So the important qualifier, I think, is that
the Re'ugidul Shegidalti means it's not just enough. And by the way, this guy's a tremendous Bekim Chassidus that mind blowing, and that's a different sugi. But I'm saying the inner stuff that that people you can't even talk about. Pneumistic stuff. You're like a weirdo. You're like an oddball. You're like you can't talk about it. I don't. You know what I mean? People say to me, "Oh, why didn't you ever make a career of being a speaker?" Because you know, I don't want to get paid to say messages that are not what I think the message should be. So, yes, it'd be nice to have the money. It'd be nice to have the exposure. It'd be nice to have this. But I'm just not doing that. I'm not becoming a crowd pleaser. And sorry, maybe I should.
Is it impossible to also say the right things? Is it possible to be a public speaker and only speak your heart, or does it necessarily mean you're going to have to be a crowd pleaser?
What would happen is, so I had a few experiences where I spoke in a lineup of a few speakers, and afterwards, and what I was saying was very different than the other speakers. It wasn't like close, but I was using all the same sources. It wasn't. And I met people afterwards who absolutely, it was one big mishmash to them. What this guy said, what I said. They were asking me questions on what he said, on what the other one said, on this. And I said, that wasn't me. I was saying, that's his thing. He says he knows Kitzim. He knows how to figure out whatever. I don't know that stuff. Why are you talking to me? I'm telling you, forget about Kitzim. We have a job to do. And, okay, it was so I saw that if you try to beat around the bush, but whatever. So I spoke this Teicha Bekitza at this Rosh Chodesh Kislev thing, and I heard afterwards from the other people sitting on the dais. One of them is two are no longer with us. That Rabbi Marlowe turned to them and said, "He's right." He heard. In other words, he heard it. He heard it. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense that the Rebbe. Do you really think that's you're gonna make the Rebbe so great and so great and so great and he's not great enough to win your mind and heart? Only your hands and feet. That's all he gets. He gets your hands and feet, and maybe he gets your amuna. They're fine, but you're not ready.
You mean elef ragli hamash arneiche bekirbei?
Yes, the feet are great, but he wants your head and heart. He's telling you. He wants your sichos and nefesh. He wants your sichos and nefesh, and there's a resistance to it. It's not like, listen, people are really making good faith effort to show up with sichos and nefesh. They're not being so successful. Nobody said anything about being successful. To how much each individual is going to be successful or not be successful is a different thing. That ever said, who yiftes Yisrael be called tzaraisa before who yiftes Yisrael be called avinais. I'm not talking about being. That ever talks about being a Beinani, that ever talks about being a tzaddik, that ever talks about. That's what I'm saying. I'm sitting in my basement and I'm reading these things in the basement of the shul, and I'm reading this stuff, and then I come out to 770, and it's godliness is, it was mamish like nothing. I reviewed it later when I was surveying in yeshivas, and I would chazit his word, and people would say that. So I would say, ask your mashpiyim. That's what I would do. Ask your mashpiyim what it means. And I would get reports back. The first, this one asked, this very famous mashpiyim was asked, the Rebbe never said such a thing. Then they showed him inside. He said, so it must mean blah, 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 blah. And this is, everyone had what it must mean. That you could be at Saudi government. I was like, I went around asking people, what is if you be misbaina and the stackle b'shleishet varim, and at the bali de avera, you won't even have to struggle with taivas hat.
Right.
And the Rebbe doesn't qualify it. The Rebbe adds, in fact, the Rebbe says, and at the bali de avera, the Rebbe adds, and even yedei avera, which is even taivas hat. Right? The Rebbe, there's no qualifiers there. So what qualifiers? So it puts in zero qualifiers. It says that works. Yeah, are we working it? Are we figuring it out? Any serious thinkers sit down together, put their heads together, and say, "Hey, this is nuts." The Rebbe said this, and why are we walking around like and I'm very chassidish because I say, what about Taiva I am and what a grubba young I am, and I say it with the $250 scotch. So now I'm really a grubba young, so I could show, and the $150 meat board, and And so it's
Yeah,
got a
yeah.
Rabbi Young. So now the
Back
Rabbi Young
then they
is
had
more
meat boards in them, Dallas.
Siddish, because I'm a Siddish Bendel. So I'm a Siddish Bendel, because even though I'm grub, but I care and I cry, Rebbe, and I cry, and so I'm got okay, fine. It's something very moving and very touching about all that. Honestly, I'm not making fun of it in the sense that I'm not touched by it. I am touched by seeing a serious grub young crying into his $250 scotch. Hey, Rebbe, we need you. It's very moving. It's very touching because it's something very, very powerful and very real there. It's that nakuda. You're seeing the nakuda of. Okay, let's hope he does. Let's hope he's not a ganva pumachtarta, but it's that same nakuda that the ganva pumachtarta has, and it's very moving. It's very touching to hear about a guy who's dancing around the statue of Buddha in Re'im, and when the guys come, he screams Shema Yisrael. Okay, fine. It's very touching, very moving, but we recommend that everyone should now go on Shabbos, Yom Tov, and then dance, boys and girls, around a Buddha statue, and then scream Shema Yisrael if terrorists come. No, we're not recommending that. So the fact that it's there and it's very powerful, it's very moving, it's very touching, it's very tragic, and we feel it in our kishkes. It's not that we don't just hear it; we feel it. If you have any kind of Yiddish feeling, but that's not the solution. That's not the prescription. That's very nice.
I want to ask. Yeah, I want to ask you about. I want to ask you a little bit about. I guess you're saying essentially, right, that the whole vert really is to come. I guess to come. Basically, the Rebbe wants from us that results. He wants results not necessarily in the world. He wants results in us. Right?
Well, yes and yeah. Well, it's not. It's
one of them. Right. It's not. You're right. It's not one or the other. It's not that we should all close ourselves in a room and.
That was the fallacy that the Rebbe was trying to be shayla from even before he became Rebbe.
Right.
Literally go into the letters of the Rebbe from before he became
Rebbe,
and you'll see that he was being shayla that fallacy that there's a conflict. No.
Right. I'm not saying necessarily that there's a conflict necessarily, but I'm asking more. Okay, not necessarily does that have to be a conflict, but when I'm making a cheshbon and nefesh and I'm deciding am I going the right direction? So if one of them starts, if there ends up being a conflict in the sense of, let's say, I'm on shlichus and I'm doing hafatza and all these things, but I am losing on this. Should I start taking a step back on this and then working on this, or in the sense of not necessarily is it a conflict?
Oh, but so in that same sichos, the Rebbe talks about istaka b'shlosh dvarim. The Rebbe explains that the first thing is istaka b'shlosh dvarim, that a person goes through life and he feels like there's the Torah avodah gemilas chasadim, and sometimes one conflicts with the other, and he feels conflicted when he's devoting to one thing. He's not busy with the other. The Rebbe says that through istaka b'shlosh dvarim, you come to the fact that it's not a conflict. They're all perfectly harmonized and integrated, and there's no conflict between the kavim. That the kavim are all unified. It's not the three things become one thing. So the whole point, that's what I'm saying. The whole point is we're starting with, and we raise the kids and we raise talmidim with the conflict. The conflict, and yes, it's true. The conflict is the only conflict that exists is the one with yourself.
Right.
The Rebbe says there's no conflict with the world anymore. There's no conflict with the world. That's gone. The Rebbe said about the conflict with yourself, it should be aloy vecha. It should be aloy vecha. You shouldn't be, and even if it looks like the world is being conflicting, just be above it, and you'll see that that's not a real conflict. So aloy vecha means, so it's not a new thing. It's been around since the Alter Rebbe. The Rebbe wasn't mechadish the union of aloy vecha. But they did. But the Rebbe is telling us is don't buy into the story that the story is about the conflict. The story is about the revelation of godliness. And the revelation of godliness has to take place. And by the way, it says everywhere. It says everywhere in Kabbalah, it's going all the way from the Baal Shem Tov and from that, and it's in Tanya. There's everything that comes out into this world has to pass through the Jews first. That's
right.
it. Jewish souls are the conduit. That means that the Giloyim of Lasid Lava, the Giloyim of Kulam Yedu, the Giloyim of Pnimis HaTorah, it has to come through Yidden first. And the Rebbe is telling you that those Yidden who are exposed to his teachings, it has to come through you first. Like I said, I was once sitting by Fabrengen, and there was an older Jew in his 80s. Yeah, he did tremendous things, personal sacrifice for the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's in Yonim. And no, I'm not knocking. I can't. I don't come to his toenails when it comes to what he what he gave for the Rebbe. But he's talking with Fabrengen how great the Rebbe is. So I said, I want to ask you one question: is the Rebbe great enough to turn you into a mensch?
You asked the shliach this?
I said, is the Rebbe great enough that he could turn you into a mensch?
Oh.
He's not a shliach. He's
okay.
He's a nice person that put his neck out for the Rebbe in many ways and many. I said, is he great enough to make you into a mensch? And he was like shocked into silence, and there were a lot of, he's like quite a bit older than me, and other people were like, feeling very uncomfortable. He was shocked. But what was I asking? I wasn't attacking him. I was saying, if you make him so great that he's out there, Margis Mamlachas, and he makes miracles, and he does. Okay, what has he done for your mind and your heart? What has he done for your inner world? What has he done to transform? To what extent have you bought into his reality of Elokus B'Pshitas? Because that's really what the Shlichus is. Shlichus was always about, I see the reality of Elokus B'Pshitas. You see a world that's broken. I'm going to guide you in how to take that broken world and make it line up with my vision of Elokus B'Pshitas, but you have to also be going along for the ride that it should become for you Elokus B'Pshitas, to the extent that you can. So Elokus B'Pshitas, so it's not that exciting.
Right.
If the world is B'Pshitas and then you have this big revelation of Matan Torah, it's very exciting. Everything is, if Mitzrayim is the Pshitas and then you have it's like everything is, the world turns upside down.
Right, so we could say the same thing with Mashiach, I guess, with the Geula, that, for many, many years, people thought that, it'll all come in like a massive revelation, clouds splitting and the Beis Hamikdash coming down and Mashiach either coming on an eagle's wings or on a mule, but really cool with an olden day white beard, long, with the old garb and a big shofar on his back or holding it and blowing it. But you're saying that, right, so essentially taking that continuation that Rebbe is saying in Chayei Sarah, that this whole concept of I see the world like this, I see the world of the Elokus B'Pshitas, and you don't see it yet, but my whole vart is that I'm giving you the koyach, I'm sending you out to take what I see and give it out. And the whole and the whole nekuda is that you should, as the shliach itself, should see Elokus B'Pshitas, but now translate Elokus B'Pshitas to Geula. The Rebbe is saying that the world is already ready.
It's not just the Geula; it's everything in your life. Elokus B'Pshitas, and like the Rebbe said then in that same cheshbon, Tafshin and Beis, the Rebbe said, "Oh, you want to be rich? Learn mental Rebbe's chassidus for sure. Then you'll be rich." Right?
I want to know really.
How many people are lining up to learn the mitzvah of Rebbe's to become rich? There are people who run to there are people who practically live by the oil. There are people who are practically, they're running here, they're running there, they're running there. God told them the Rebbe said, why? Because the Rebbe is talking from Elokus B'Pshitas. And it's so hard, and you're so resistant to the message of Elokus B'Pshitas that to you, I'm going to sit and learn mitzvah episodes, and that's how my parnas situation is going to change. Sounds to you like a fantasy, some kind of magic trick. If it'll work at all. And anyway, probably God is going to want to zap me anyway. He'll figure out some other reason why to zap me and mess up my life, because I grew up young and whatever the chassidish shtick is. But the point is, the Rebbe is mamish. The Rebbe mamish. It's saying oisius. The truth is, if you go back to Tavshin Yural, if you go back to Basiligani, those are really the oisius all along. But the Rebbe used oisius in the Yuds. The Rebbe used oisius. He was still using the oisius of Chassidus, of the traditional Chassidus. It was Miyosed Maimarim of the early Rabbi. But if you go to any Maimah, you'll see that the Rebbe, and later years the Rebbe was shortening it, and shortening it just picking out a point. But you see everything that the Rebbe was trying to convey was, kiddies, stuff is real. This stuff is hands-on reality. You heard of gravity? You heard of the physics? You heard of you know the difference between that a rock is hard, a pillow is soft. That right? Not because you went to school for it, not because it's just.
I only know that because we learned in Rambam 2 days ago. That the different chronos that each side has.
Yeah, you didn't have to get a philosophy degree. This is just that kind of real. It's so real. This should be the reality for your kids. This should be reality for the ladies. This should be it's not being presented as, it shouldn't be, the Rebbe was not presenting it as mysticism that you have to leave the world to connect to. That was presenting.
So you're saying this is a general thing that was throughout the Rebbe's whole Messias. What
the Rebbe sounds like was day one.
Right, but the Rebbe was mechadish in the shlichus, in particular in Chaisara Kabbalah Stem Shilzakenu. Does that mean that now this is all focused around, you have to do all this in order to greet the Rebbe as Mashiach, or is it not, what was the Rebbe bringing to the table as a chiddush in Chaisara? That now it's Kabbalah Stem Shilzakenu.
To me, Pashut, what the Rebbe was saying is, if you come ready to greet Mashiach, you have to come with all of you. Not, which I used to get very annoyed with the pajama, the marshal of the two brothers, and they've tzikricked, and he didn't have an invitation to the wedding, and he got his pajamas, whatever, a whole thing. So basically the message was, Mashiach is coming no matter what you do. And that's what the Rebbe was telling us. The message the Rebbe came to tell us Chavchas Nissen is, Mashiach is coming no matter what you do. And I'm just giving
that was more the message, I think, of Nayach than Chavchas Nissen.
I'm just giving you a chance to put on your to not come to the goal in your pajamas. And I was saying I understood it completely the other way. The Rebbe said, I'm ready to go. I told you in Tavshin Yudala that Yaakov Avinu is ready to go. I'm being held up so the Kindle should catch up. I told you this way back 40 years ago. I'm waiting for you, the guys, to catch up. And he basically just said it in stronger words, gave us a little heads up that things were going to be changing. And he says, I need you to catch up. I need you to catch up means that it has to become your reality. And become your reality is, you're not, it's not that you're being more careful with Shulchan Aruch, and you're more careful with learning and davening and Kima Mitzvahs Behider and with chayas and excitement, and when you encounter people, you're expressing your chassidische Varmkeit, as the Rebbe said, but it's all coming from the fact that this is reality. It's not, I'm doing this for something else. I'm doing this so that the people literally would verbreng, especially in the Tkufa after Chav Zayin, there were people literally verbrenging about, whatever they thought the thing that we needed to do was. They literally talked about it like this, like a certain. I remember sitting with a group of guys and saying, "Do you really believe this is like in Gimmel and Dalet? Do you really believe that there's a certain amount of people you got to get to say Yechi? When you hit that number, then upstairs the bell goes off, ding, 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 ding. We hit the number, the scoreboard lights up, and then Mashiach comes. Is that how you see it?" And they told me point blank, yes. And I told them point blank, I pray you're right, and I pray the number is within reason. So I don't think so. I really
so what? So what do you think? So what do you think is
that need to take things with Pneumius? What's the answer? Yeah. And people need to take the vitamin Pneumius.
And by the way, one of those guys became a very successful shliach in Eretz Yisrael, And when he comes to New York and he would see me, he would scoot away. I would nod at him. I couldn't give him a shalom aleichem. He would he was very embarrassed because he was very forcefully yes. We're gonna hit the number. Ding ding ding. We got the number. We're ready to go. So it's not. That's the point. It's not about a number. There's some kind of reality shift. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe's, when Rebbe Grana came to the Rebbe after, the Rebbe asked him, it was after Shabbos Pasha Shmini already, the Rebbe asked him, what's been the reaction to the Sicha? And so he says that he said to the Rebbe, people feel like they don't know what to do. So the Rebbe said, I just spoke Shabbos, what to do? And the whole Sich of Shabbos, what was the Sich of Shabbos Pasha Shmini? The Rebbe says, the whole Sich of Shabbos Pasha Shmini was, you have the power to draw infinite light into a finite world. When you learn Torah, when you do mitzvahs, you draw it into your own mind and heart. You can draw infinite light into the world around you. You have this amazing power to draw into the world. So when you relate to it as that kind of a power, you're going to want to do more of it. If you don't relate to it as that kind of a power, so then you're trying to figure out what your yaitza, So the Rebbe said, the Rebbe didn't review the sichos. The Rebbe said, "Chab gesagt was." We have zugeben, and you just have to add in Torah mitzvahs, heder mitzvah. So he said people feel that they've already, added, and the Rebbe called for adding voice. But I say it's noch nicht genug.
Was there a shift from Chav Ches Nissen, I guess, till now? Is there a difference? Like, my question is, in Noach, the Rebbe says that we've we made a cheshbon nefesh and all the avodah of Golus
necessary. Yeah,
correct has been complete.
That's what I'm telling you. So, and then the next week, the Rebbe is telling you you want to be rich to learn the Mittler Rebbe's Chassid, to learn Chassidus b'shufi, especially the Mittler Rebbe's Chassidus with Mamish Bar Chava. If you
that was all about
no b'pshitas that they need to know Kol HaTorah to learn Kol HaTorah. Then next week the Rebbe is saying that we need to have Kibush HaMoichin already. It's not just enough. And the next week the Rebbe is week after week the Rebbe didn't change the tune and say. We need to sit back and scratch our heads to figure out why isn't.
But he changed what the benchmark was. Whereas till now, what was necessary was the Maseinu Vaveseinu. Now the Rebbe says what's necessary is to pile off the Mashiach Tzidkeinu, and they will tell Mashiach Tzidkeinu. So even Takat L'Chayra, even the Avodah we're doing, that it has to be Pnimius, and we should have the goal that should be Elokos B'Pshitos. It's all B'Tor affecting what has to happen in order to have this probably by Mashiach Tzidkeinu that you should be able to take us out of dollars.
Of course, but you want to hear it. You want a balabatish way of understanding it. But the Rebbe shouldn't chap his yonis by presenting you to the Alter Rebbe. This is my nerachos. You shouldn't chap his yonis. Do you want the Rebbe to chap his yonis? He's going to present you to the Alter Rebbe. Do you want to give the Rebbe bizyonis? You want to give the Rebbe that the Rebbe should? Honestly, just ask yourself that question. Forget about philosophy.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like it's a little moo. Like we're already it's not. We're in.
Everybody, I would sit by Fabrengens where everybody would explain that the whole kavanah of the Baal Shem Tov of the Alter Rebbe was over Der Ashvi, was over Der Ashvi, was over Der Ashvi. So you should be very proud to walk the way you are. Wie du stehst und gehst. Be very proud to walk up to the Baal Shem Tov and say, hey, I'm your man. I'm the guy. I did it. The Bezrit Shemagid,
I'm saying,
and you would be digging a hole to find a place where to bury yourself. So why do you think? Why?
I'm saying no, Adrab. We're
What? Really? And by the way, the Alter Rebbe is there's places where the Alter Rebbe talks about. Somebody was once chattering me that you come from the literature world, so but there's Torah learning. So I said, okay, like by the Rebbe, not everything is Torah learning. Okay, the Rebbe specifically said that his dream The Rebbe once spoke about he has a chazain. He knows that his chazain is Einem and development limud Torah. That's the Rebbe's chazain, not the chazanish, and not the one from Lakewood, and not that's the Rebbe's chazain. Einem and development limud Torah. But okay, but I said besides that, I said, do me a favor, take out a Torah and look at the Torah, and count how many times it says the words v'talmudai b'yadav. And in how many contexts? It's not just about after you're dead. It's about when Mashiach comes and Tchias HaMeis. I said, pushed. I asked you a question. You're going to come face to face with God. God says, Lamed and learn. And you're going to say,
I'm sure
I got nothing. God, sorry, I got nothing. This is my language. God told you, this is what I care about. This is what I'm interested in. This is my language. You want to talk to me. You want to sit face to face to me. They never spoke at Yisrei. That the maybe it was the Nolov still. That whatever, that the Indian of that everybody today is shaykh not only to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sheni Kenegdei, but even to I'm thinking of the even to
I don't remember.
That David is Mama speaking through his mouth. That the Rebbe is not
right. But my point is
anybody who figured out that the Rebbe was offering coolness.
You're right. No, you have like this. You bring up a very, very good point. My only qualm is that this is something that the Rebbe was the entire Nesius. It was about this. Was trying to push us into this thing. And Chavchas Nissen was obviously like you said, you saw it coming because you listened to the sichos of that the Rebbe said right before, but something changed in Noach in Nun Beis that the Rebbe didn't start changing his tune in the sense of he's still everything that you're saying continues through Nun Beis and through the very end and through now. But my point is that there was a shift. There was something that changed in Tefshin Nun Beis, and Simcha I think was trying to say that the shift was from Ma'asinu V'Vedeseinu to the whole concept of to be Zeicha to the Gula Mitzvah Shlema, and now everything has to shift. So it's not a contradiction, right? It's not a contradiction, like you said. Shlichus, Avodas HaShlichus is not a contradiction to Avodas.
The sichos Shmeisnim Beis is all about Lahavi L'Meis HaMashiach. The sichos
right. But again. Right, so I'm not saying that it's no longer that. What I'm saying is that there was a different element that instead of basically like this, there's two things going on, right? And like you explained to me before, that the whole contradiction is in ourselves, that we perceive a contradiction, but it itself is not a contradiction. So my next point is that what happened in Tafshin and Beis was there was still this concept of Avodah and the Lahavi L'Meis Mashiach, that whole thing, learning Kol HaTorah Kula, going through the Chassidish Parsha and all that stuff. But the Avodas HaShlichus, the Rebbe took it out and he put in a new thing called Kabbalas B'nai Mashiach Tzidkenu. He put in a new Avodah, a new, so to speak, thing that goes hand in hand with.
I will address that.
Yes, please.
Allow me to address that because we're running long.
Yes, we are.
Basically,
I guess we'll finish off with this. Nekuda.
Well,
basically, the Friediger Rebbe describes one of the Anashim Pshutim that he encountered over the years from earlier generations. And he describes this Ish Pashat that they learned with him, Tanya, only till Perek Lamed Hey. He didn't mention that in passing, that one of the things they learned with him only till Perek Lamed Hey.
I learned till Perek Lamed Hey today.
What's that?
This morning. In the Shlomo Zachi's Tanya Share, we finished Perek Lamed Dalet today.
So what was the significance of that? The significance of that was, if you think about it, what was the significance? The significance of that was that for the first 34 prakim, The Alter Rebbe does not really, except when he talks about the Tzaddik Gomer and what his avoid is, but the Alter Rebbe does not introduce the concept of any kind of, that in your Avodas Hashem there's anything except what's between you and God. The 34 chapters, all he talks about is you took an oath. I didn't take the oath for you. I got my own oath. You took it out. You swore up and down that you are going to do everything you about to be a tzaddik and not be a Russian. That's your, and you got business with the Lord, and you gotta get yourself right with the Lord. I mean, and I'm going to show you how to do it. That's, and you're going to have struggles, you're going to have ups and downs, you'll have bad days, so I'm going to show you how to cheer yourself up, I'm going to show you how to overcome that, I'm going to give you the tools that you need to work out your relationship. In Perek Lamed Hey, the Alter Rebbe starts to explain La'asosei, so he starts to explain to explain more the Tevis La'asosei, and also to be menachem the Beinanim, to know that their work is also of significance. They're not like the Tzaddik Gomer, who that's his whole work, is to you should know that you also have an important part of the work, and in certain ways, the fact that you're doing it through a skafia is in certain ways even more special, because that's really. So you start to introduce you to the idea that you have a role to play in the cosmic story. That's really so. The Chassidim, the Friedrich Rebbe met Chassid, that was a Chassidish chinuch for a simple guy who wasn't, going to be a big scholar. He was going to be serious about, getting right with God. That so he gave him the tools. They learned with him, and I think also he's maybe Mem Aleph and Mem Beis, or Mem Aleph through Mem Zayin, something like that. But so why? Because the part was that's not your department. That's the Tzaddik's department, and that was the understanding. The Rebbe spoke about this in Purim Mem Zayin. Where the Rebbe spoke about this idea that it goes from the Anasi Hu HaKol but everyone understood that it belongs to the Anasi Hu HaKol. That was not the. You should know that you have a big part in it, and the fact that you're muching zach and you're not having this major win that the tzaddik is having. You're living a perpetual struggle. You should know that your perpetual struggle is a very important component of that cosmic plan. But in Perek Aleph, he says, listen, you should have in mind, you should have in mind that what you're doing is part of the cosmic plan, but it's not going to be as real for you as it is for the tzaddik, because you have a different kind of relationship. Your relationship is like the Eved, and even though you have to have a little bit of Ben in you, you're not going to be quite like the tzaddik, who's a Ben like Moshe Rabbeinu, who's giving his life for his dad. So you're in a different league. That's not, but you should have that in mind also. You should know. So it's clear, the Rebbe took the whole chassidus and said, it's flipping it completely on his head. The Rebbe is saying, all the stuff that you're going to do inside yourself is not for you. Nobody cares about you getting right with God. We care about the job getting done. But in order to get the job done,
you got to get right with God.
But again, it's not about, it's not. Of course we want you to be, of course it's going to be good for you too. Nobody's ever asked you to do anything that's not going to be good for you too. But that's not the focus. You go back literally in the Yuds and the earliest years, the Rebbe talked about a level of Kabbalah's where he's not even looking for the fact that it's going to edel him eyes. He's not even looking for the fact that it's going to schlep him out of Shel Tachlis. He's not even looking for the fact that he's only focused on the Eibusha getting what he wants. And then the Rebbe would say, when you do that, when you flip that, you buy into my vision. It's not your vision. The Alter Rebbe's told you it's not your vision. It's my vision. But when you buy into my vision, and you're not ready to, you don't necessarily, I'm going to get inside your kishkas, I'm going to connect you to that reality. That can drive you. But it has to drive you, all of you. I need all of you. But the drive is not about you and you getting yourself. You're doing all of those things. You're promoting all of those things. You're teaching all of those things. You're printing those svarim. You're teaching those svarim. All these ideas. You're doing it all in the context of getting the job, because this is it. We're at the end. It's not now. It's not a luxury anymore. Now it's not a luxury item for super special people. Now it's everybody's business. So it's a huge flip. It's a huge flip. Because what am I going to? You're talking to me about an avodah which the Rebbe says very clearly is not for me, and you're telling me that should be my only focus. So the Rebbe says, "Yeah, I'm taking you to a whole different level." That's the flip of all flips. Do you want to know what changed? Everything changed. The whole story changed. You got to go back to Tanya.
Become Tzaddikim Gemurim L'Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu. That's the name of the game now.
Yeah, you got to go back to Tanya, and everything changed. The whole story changed, literally from the front page of Tanya to the first words. The Rebbe's vision of that, everything changed. The Rebbe's vision of that is little kids saying, throwing up their arm and screaming "Ki Karay Velacha," but that's not just for the and then go on to grow up to be Stam Zlab. But that should be your reality. That should be your reality because that's where we are. We're here. They have the maps. You are here. We are here. Yeah. I'm telling you, we are here. It changes the game in every detail. Every detail. It's totally.
And until we don't do the job, saying that's why we're still here. We shouldn't give neighbors any excuses.
I want to tell you. I'm telling you, I said this 30 years ago. If I woke up after 30 years and I said, "Okay, yeah, you see, looking back, I wasn't the Greis Chacham then, and I'm not the Greis Chacham now." I was literally just reading I would verbring with young Bach years ago. I would say, "Listen, don't believe anything I say. Look it up. Everything I quote, look it up. Don't believe a single word I say. Look it up." I said, but this is the pair of eyes you need to look at it with. Don't look at the guy who learned from someone who was makabel from someone who was makabel from him, and he's a makabel from him, and he was back in the Temchet Tamimim, and he was by Groinem, and I don't know any of these people. I never met him. I don't know anybody. I wasn't makabel from anybody. I read sichos that the Rebbe published in newspapers. Look at it from the eye of somebody who is picking up a newspaper. Don't look at it from the guy who has the whole baggage of Groinim's Verbrengens and Nistens Verbrengens and Shleimechaim's Verbrengens and this was forget it. You don't know anything. You know newspapers. You know the language it's written in. You know Yiddish, you know Hebrew, and you know newspapers. Obviously, you have to have some background in Torah Judaism in order to understand the basic concept. Look at it through the eyes of someone who's picking up a newspaper.
That's a very good perspective.
If you literally do that, if you take out everything you know, and you literally do that, it will freak you out. You don't know because you grew up with it. You don't know what it is to look at it with totally fresh eyes. From the outside.
Like you were saying in the beginning, so we categorize so much of what the Rebbe says into things that are real, things that are potential real, things that are like okay.
Okay, and by the way, if you go through Torah Shalom and you go through some of the Friedrich Rebbe sichos, you could see how they're directly the Rebbe Rashab's Torah Shalom, and the Friedrich Rebbe in his sichos, you can see that they're directly attacking Groinem, usually not by name. They're attacking and they say, "We know you're telling the Bachram that this doesn't mean this and this doesn't mean that, and you're not holding by this, you're not holding by that. We know you're doing that. It's the wrong thing." And that's it. And you say, don't listen to them, but and that was it. And they kept the job. And he kept them in the job. You have to understand. I think Tezvav Tezayin maybe was Torah. The Rebbe was verbringing, and the Rebbe spoke to the Bachra. The Rebbe said he said like he would turn and speak to the Bachram. In those early years, he would like address the Bachram by verbringing. So he was addressing the Bachram, and he said basically the Teichen at bottom. I don't remember the exact words. The Rebbe said the Teichen was, yeah, the yeshiva is lousy, and the Rosh Yeshivas are lousy, and the Mashpiyim are lousy. What do you care? You're in the Rebbe's yeshiva, and I think people didn't understand what that. All the people who kvetch about the system and the this and that, they're still looking for answers from the Mashpiyah, and the Rebbe demanded mashmas to the Anhala, and the Rebbe demanded all those things. We have a system in place. We have a structure in place. Fine. Don't get hung up on the structure. Look at me. And that was the message is you have to see what I'm here for is all these guys. Yeah, they need a salary and and they're probably doing good stuff and and they could be helpful and useful and I'll get to guide you on your way. I need you to buy into my vision. That's what you're here for. This is what being in the Rebbe's yeshiva means. Buy into my vision. Don't let anybody else. I didn't put in superstars who are going to dazzle you with their vision, because their vision is ultimately seichel anushi. I'm not selling that. So don't get hung up on this guy's seichel anushi or the other guy's seichel anushi. I'm giving you the vision of reality, and reality of Elokus Pshitas, not Elokus Pshitas as it is in Rikia Ha, pick a number, but Elokus Pshitas as it is in El Mahazar Gashmi. I'm telling you, follow this blueprint. And by the way, in Limud Torah, I want to tell you something. If you look at what the rest of the world is doing, the programs they're doing for people to learn Shas, the programs they're doing for people to retain what they learn, for programs that they're doing, and they're doing it for Balabatim, they're doing it for lay people, they're doing it. It's amazing. The Rebbe talked about knowing Kala Terakula, and there's mamish a huge push everywhere else to master all kinds of. The Rebbe has a vision. It's other people realize it in their own kav. It's all the Rebbe's vision. They don't know it's all the Rebbe's vision. They think that they're Kirov professional.
America.
But whatever. But the fact is, that's the Rebbe's vision. They're going to actualize it in their way. We need to actualize it in the real Hasidish, durchgeweckt, durchgearbeitet, Hasidish way. But it all starts with whatever it is that the Rebbe says, do it. Put one foot in front of the other. The only way to learn 3 prakim of Rambam is to take the book in your hand, open it up, look inside, read the words. You got to and then look at the translation if you can't translate it for yourself. You have to do, if the Rebbe says learn something b'iyam, look in a mafarish. It won't happen by itself. You do the things, but the Rebbe is telling you the power of doing in our generation is that when you do it, you will be amazed. While you're doing, you think, who am I? What am I? What is it really worth? What does it really mean? If you do the things and you do it with, especially if you're doing it with the right intentions, if you're really thinking about what it means and what the significance is and how we're bringing the world to its perfection. If you think about, yes, maybe you don't appreciate the yichud nitzchi l'olam v'ad that you're going to have. So maybe you're too spiritually dulled to appreciate eternity and infinity when you're faced with a slice of pizza. Fine, okay, yes, the slice of pizza wins. Eternity and infinity is not even a close second. Okay, fine, but at least the idea that you're bringing the world to its ultimate perfection, that I know I put in your kishkus. I put it in there. It's something that I had a friend, Olav Shalom, that before I had anything to do with Lubavitch, so his best friend, he and his best friend went and spent the Shabbos in Kfar Chabad, and his best friend stayed, and he didn't. So this was a friend of mine, whose best friend stayed in Lubavitch, and then became in Lubavitch, so he did not. So they both spent the Shabbos together in Kfar Chabad. So he was telling me before, he said the one thing he has real hana. He says he saw these 2 modern-looking guys. He was on the plane there, so there was 2 very modern-looking guys with very modern-looking wives. And they're yakking the whole trip. They're yakking. These were not the guys who got up and went around and put tefillin on everybody. And these were not the guys who, he says, they were just sitting. They were like on 2 sides of the aisle, so they're sitting and schmoozing the whole trip. And he says at the end, he's like getting up to go, and he says one turns to the other and says, and he said, so he, even as an outsider, he didn't know what he appreciated about it, but he sort of appreciated the fact that guys who, mitzad their whole tziyur, look like they're so, not shaykh to anything, that something inside them is like, we're all connected to that mission of fixing the world. It never says, work it backwards. Vayakri, you'll get to Vayikra. Yes, the traditional system is, and they never said it from day one. They never said, bottom up. Work it bottom up, and you'll see that bottom up is not exciting. Bottom up is not thrilling. Bottom up is not wow, breakthrough. Bottom up means you daven, and then you have a day where you're like, wow.
One more question.
That was it.
A lot of people.
You're frustrated and you're miserable, and your mind is playing tricks on you, and you're trying to daven, and you feel like the biggest faker, and you feel like the biggest phony, and you feel like it's all make believe, and it's all contrived, and what am I doing here? And what a yutz, what a lowlife, what an idiot. And you know, and if you know the Mitler Rebbe's Chassidus and about that all of your Bachshavadi B'maises that are in Klippa come to fight you when you're davening, and you get to talk and meet them, and you feel like whatever. I'm gonna tell you, the Rebbe says, do it, show up and do it. When you show up and do it, it's not about. That's what I'm saying. It's not about. Oh, when I'll be on this level, then I'll do it. I'll be on that level. This is the opposite.
Take the first step, go do it, get involved, take it seriously. That's Never's end. Never's not kidding around.
Now, you could be a guy who started learning the Rambam from the first cycle, and you still don't fully understand, 80% of what you learned, and you never looked in any of the farshim to find out what it means. You could do that too. I don't think you can't do that. You can do that too. But what you could do is, you could also open up for yourself a new vision of what your capabilities are that you would have thought you're never shaykh. Like the guy who, I see him regularly, the guy who was sitting on Kavutza, and he told the Rebbe he's not shaykh to learning anything at all. That's it. Learning's not for him. The Rebbe said, learn something that interests you for 5 minutes a day. I'm asking you to try this out. But you have to stop at 5 minutes. You must stop at the 5 minutes. No matter what. Whatever you hold, you must stop at the 5 minutes. Anyway, the guy, he's told the story publicly. He said he started, so he figured, okay, we'll learn Chumash and Rashi. Started with Chumash and Rashi, and then you would see the 5 minutes, and it was a minute, he didn't know the answer to and it would like bug him, So at some point, he came back and asked permission to go more than 5 minutes. Whatever, and he's an interesting guy. He's a big learner today. Love that. But the point is, what the Rebbe's system is, it's not that I am this, and I'm trying to become that. I am that. People say use the line "fake it till you make it," and I say that's not what Chassidus is. That's not an accurate representation of Chassidus. Chassidus is real it till you make it, not fake it till you make it. Do it the most real.
Do it earnestly.
No, but do it because this is the reality. The problem is that my nefesh habahamis and is covering up the reality for me. But this is the reality. That's how the Rebbe's approach to everything is. Just like you approach the other Jew and you say, oh, just look at his neshama, don't look at what his outside is saying. He's screaming, I hate you religious guys. Get away from me with your stupid boxes and straps. I'm never going to do it. Okay, fine. But whatever. And maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, maybe not the fifth time. But eventually, because you're not going to look at it. You're not going to listen to that. You're just going to. But you won't do that to yourself. I'm lazy, I'm this, I'm that. Okay, that's a choice that you make. The Rebbe is telling you, Geula is, you have to do that to yourself just as much as you have to do that with anybody else. Because if not, what you're saying is that there's a stira between godliness and a part of the world, and the part of the world which you're most intimately connected to. You're screaming, there's a stira between Geula and my head and my heart. Not the other guy. No, everyone else is ready. The world is ready. This is ready. Me? Forget about me. Don't count on me. I'll run around. I'll do. I'll scream. I'll make. I'll this. I'll do. I'll get everyone else. Me not. When you, the guy who's saying me not, okay. L'regel ha'yoladim. L'regel ha'malacha. L'regel ha'yoladim. The Rebbe says the malacha is done. Now it's only the yoladim that.
How does this stem with Nayach saying that Cheshbon Nefesh, if you have something that's a prat, and You have to.
Of
I'm
course.
saying you have to work on it. He's not saying not to work on it.
That's what he's telling you. You have to see it as a part of the reality. Don't get hung up on it. You make a whole cheshbon of, listen, I'm not holding there, I'm not this,
Right,
not
but
that.
this is the recipe. You're saying this is the recipe for Mashiach. If the Rebbe is saying that no.
This is a prat, the Mashiach. That's what I'm saying. It's not about you. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about you. What's going to be with you? Not because you're head and heart.
Right.
It's not true. Right. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying conceptually. I'm trying to flip.
Right.
Conceptually. Of course it's true. We do care about you. And we care about... And the whole reason all the way back to Tzimtzum Rishon is only because God cares about you.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically you. He had you in mind. It wasn't... He also had a lot of other people in mind. But not... He had you specifically and exclusively in mind. It wasn't... He's able to manage that.
Right. Like you were saying, we're saying we're nothing, but the Rebbe is saying that, yeah, you're right, you're nothing, but I still need you to do the thing.
Yeah, take that nothingness and harness it to the last preparing for the Geula. Take that and don't fight it, and don't use it as an excuse, and don't use it as don't beat yourself up over it. Tshuva, don't worry, because I'm so bad, and yeah, you have to fix something, fix it, but fix it in the context and the context of that it's done. It's done. It's not. I don't need to go through all those steps and stages. That was done for me. What Alter Rebbe wrote in Tanya, the first 34 braka, how you, of course you have to do all those things, but the Rebbe is saying you have to do all those things. There's a different context. It's not, maybe one day I'll be really great. I'll be on the level that I could relate to the Rebbe Tachton and relate to the Eibishter's desires. No, the Rebbe says, put the Eibishter's desires first, and he needs you to be ready. And in that context of being ready, do it all. But he wants you to show up. It's the only reason. If you learn Chassidus, you understand what Chassidus is about. The whole idea of why we needed these 7 generations was not because your tefillin was better than the other Jews' tefillin. It was not because we needed it for the inner shift. We didn't need it for the to have a different pair of tefillin and a different kind of gartel and a different kind of langerekel and a different kind. It wasn't what it was needed for. What was needed for, what the ultimate Mesiras Nefesh and all of what was needed for was the internal change, the internal shift. That's all Chassidus was ever needed for. Not to convince a bunch of people to become outreach workers. It was to make that inner change. That's what it was for. That it should be that the Gilui Holocaust, that should be Lashon Love, it should come in a Panemius. That's the whole story. Anything you ever learned was, and you're going to show up without a head, without a heart. So you're going to be, you say, well, listen, let me cut them about Gedolim, right? The Rebbe says in the Maimer, at his taka cotton, and I'm at bleiben na cotton, aber kulam yedu eisi. So okay, yeah, taka cotton, and bleiben na cotton. Really? Who said that's how Mashiach wants to go to the Geula with you as no, he wants that you're just as much on board with the Kulam Yedu Eisi as you are just with the general Koch in Mashiach. I asked a guy, very serious guy, big medactic and halacha, very big minhagim and halacha, this and that. I said, if God came to you now and said, listen, I want you to already have now all the stuff that the rest of the Yidden are going to have in Yemei Mashiach. I want you to already have now in advance. You're going to have your 28,000 servants, and you're going to have the Madanim Mitzuyim Gaf. You're going to have it all. The rest of the world didn't catch up yet. You're going to have it all. I said, would you say, yeah, great, I'm ready for that. And your whole Asik will be Ladas Hashem B'Vad. We're starting with you. You're going to be the first guy. Instinctively, he didn't even think about it. Instinctively, he was. I've become a complete chaz. I've become completely fagreft. I've had all that money and all that and all those services. That was his default reaction, without thinking, without hesitating. His reaction was that without a divine lobotomy, without God doing brain surgery on me, I am not ready for what he has to offer. Unless they're going to do some kind of magical. So you're going to talk to me about Panemius when you believe that you're so far corrupt, that you're so not shaykh to a Gilead because of Yemei Mashiach, that unless God overrides your bechira, if you are left with the choice You got everything that the Moshiach Mashiach has to offer. But you still lived in a world where you could pursue you're convinced you would pursue your lowly desires. So get ready. That's what I think the message is. Get ready. That's what get ready means. Get ready means, are you ready? Do you feel ready? You feel ready for that? Or you say, no, only if it's Ruach HaTonav and Arts. There's places where the Rebbe says very strongly that the later places, there's slightly conflicting messages that need to be resolved. But there's definitely places where the Rebbe says that Ruach HaTonav and Arts won't happen in the first kufa. That's it. First kufa of the first kufa. If it doesn't mean the first kufa of the first kufa, the whole first kufa. We're gonna get into a conversation. Or did the Rebbe say that we could abbreviate the whole process and skip through all the kufas, so it's not going to be really an issue? But the Ruach HaTonav and Arts is definitely place where the Rebbe talks barichas, not like it mentions the Derech. The Rebbe talks barichas. That you're really gonna have to, you're gonna have to struggle with your Yitzhara and so on. But ready means that am I a perfect specimen of Chassidus? No, I'm the furthest thing from it. I'm not presenting myself as that. But do I have an appetite for Gilel Lakus? Do I have a koch in Gilel Lakus? Do I when I'm alone and nobody's watching? Do I really try to put my mind and heart into whether it's in learning or davening? Some part of my day that's devoted to changing how I relate to God and godliness. That's a question. That's something that should be the conversation. I'm just saying that should be the conversation. I think people are very sincere. I think people are very well-meaning. I think people are very but and if somebody comes along and offers them, spirituality at the oil and the amazing spiritual experiences at the oil, and
people want feel-good things and easy way out.
But I don't think people are insincere. I think people are very sincere. I think people are very
right. But there is something right.
Make real sacrifices. People make real tough decisions in life. People I think people it's mostly people give up on themselves beyond anything, either getting some kind of spoon-fed spirituality from the internet or from some guru rabbi or from some people have a hard time buying into a vision of themselves. So the Rebbe is telling, that's basically the message I got is, yes, I've sold you on the vision of what we could do out in the world. And even that, I had a much more extreme vision than you guys. Stam Batlonim, you didn't do a fraction of what I thought you could do out in the world. And the Rebbe made that clear also in other ways. It was too nice to say it and spell it out in those words. But the Rebbe made it clear that he thought that the Shluchim and the hostess could have accomplished 50 times more, and they weren't busy with stupid machlokes and stupid territorial disputes and stupid all kinds of other stupidities. But at the same time, I still haven't convinced you that you are the guys, that you are the generation. You know what the toughest question you have when you talk to you talk to young people who are struggling with the question, how long is a generation? What does it mean to be a generation? Is it a generation? Yeah. What are they really asking? They're asking a math question? No, they're not asking a math question. What they're really asking is, I don't see myself as that person. That's what they're telling. I don't see myself as that person. That yes, everything was leading up to me being the one to have the gula. I don't see myself as that person. So I said, I sold you on every part of the vision. You bought into the idea that I'm going to magically come and change the world. But you never bought into the vision that you're the guy who it's for. You just never did.
Were you less shocked about Gimmel Tammuz than other people?
You thank your father. Is he still listening in? You thank your father for being the one to call me on the Sunday morning to let me know. That was a real treat. Listen, I was shocked. I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't shocked. But I also have a number of witnesses that, again, I had to be careful who I said it to. But when a certain person there was a certain well-known person that was saying that if a Gimmel Tammuz happens, then the Rebbe is an Avi Sheker. And I was told people, and again, I didn't have big audiences. I didn't speak in public. I spoke to people who in Barbach, whoever would come to the shiur. And I said to people, this guy is, okay, in the end, he got out of it with Taisi, but I said, this is completely reckless, completely, I said, the Rebbe said, I gave it up to you. I don't want to find out what happens if we insist that it's not up to us. And that, I said, I wouldn't make those predictions. As I said, I sat by Fabrings with guys talking about throwing the Rebbe's bed out the window from the shul hospital. This was such a cap. I'm not, these guys, that was, literally how some people, saw the situation. There were people on the other side who thought, you need to get a better doctor. You need to force the Rebbe to do things the Rebbe doesn't agree to. Okay, whatever. Each guy according to his version of grubkeit. I think in a way I found throwing the Rebbe's bed out the window more edel, more chassidish than deciding you have to overrule the Rebbe on his healthcare decision. Fine, that's just me. Maybe I wasn't makabel from the people who were makabel from the people who were makabel from the great chassidim of yesterday. So I don't know.
So the person that made that comment of if Gimmel Tammuz happens, then the Rebbe is a Navi Sheker. What I guess, why do you think that it's not? Why do you think that the Rebbe? Why do you think that even with Gimmel Tammuz, there?
I never understood the sichos Sheftim Nun Aleph that way. I never understood the Nebuah that way. That same person ran around saying it took him from when the sichos came out till after Mendel Vechter came and made a chasna in New York at the end of towards the end of Nun Gimel. I'm sorry, after Tishrei Nun Gimel, when he got permission from the Rebbe to come to America for the first time after his life was in danger. So Mendel Vechter sat with this person and really, really that Tishrei, really that was hacking him the sicha of Sheftim and Aleph and this and that. So finally, at that point, he said, okay, Zabaferish and Nevuah. But till then, he was not being garish the whole thing, and then he went back and forth. I don't, it's history. But I never bought it. I know.
So how do you understand La'alta L'Gula? What's Pshat La'alta?
What was Pshat La'alta L'Gula? By the Friedrich, what was Pshat La'alta? La'alta is Gula. This is all Gula. It's not Gula. It's Gula. The Rebbe said. The Rebbe said we already have this Galus of Melech HaMashiach. He's just waiting for you guys.
Did we always have this Galus of Melech HaMashiach?
Well, you guys are napping. I might as well take a nap too. That's all. What's the problem?
So that was the word. The rule was that now Mashiach is coming with Galos, and now it's ready, and the Pashat warten of a few guys to get their act together.
He's here, not a few guys. What do you mean a few guys? Did you buy in? Did my people? Yeah, I'm just saying. Did Mashiach's people? The people who screamed the loudest that I'm Mashiach? Did they buy into my vision or not? They're the ones I did. I didn't.
Is there anybody in the world? Is there anybody in the world that you would say did buy into it?
Again, everybody does to an extent, but what happens is we're programmed to when we encounter our own, and that's why it's so important about the sichos of Nerech Tavshin Beis. We're programmed from our education that when we encounter our weaknesses and flaws, we say, forget it. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Let me go get the other guy, but this guy, I'm looking at me right now. This guy ain't happening. Yeah, I'll be a little more religious. I'll take on another little thing of this, and that. Yeah, but this guy, nothing serious is going to be happening here with this guy because I know him and I know him too well, and just forget about it. That narrative, that's what ever came in my mind. And no. No. You don't get to say, "Oh, I'm the bad guy," and therefore forget about me and just do it. No, yeah. Oh, you have something to fix it. It's fine. We're not saying, but it's, you need to come along for the ride too. And it's not because, so I didn't just tell you that tshuva is not holding up to Gula. Tshuva is not holding up to Gula. Tshuva is not the problem. The problem is I need my people. I need my people. I need my.
Andre Moshe.
The Rebbe said in Be'er and Beis. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe is going to come in and he's going to look and see where are you holding in all the Yanei Aveda. Besides the fact that the Rebbe totally flipped it in Yisrael, and the Rebbe came along and he said that what he said in the first year that everybody should. No, everybody should find 10 Jews and convince to be.
To make them that they should bring that
at least one thing and then in here the Rebbe said you should find 10 Jews and be mashpia them in kol inyanei Torah mitzvahs. The Rebbe didn't say one thing in Machshav, one thing in Dibur, one thing in Maisa. The Rebbe said kol inyanei Torah mitzvahs. The Rebbe was talking a whole different language than he was talking at the beginning. The Rebbe was telling us we have a whole and the Rebbe said I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about shluchim. I'm talking about every private thing. Right? So how many people walked out of that? We said, oh, look at that. The Rebbe, so in Tafshin Yod, the Rebbe held people's feet to the fire. Came to a Fabrang and they came to this. The Rebbe said, no, where's your 10 people? Where's your, no. Okay. Yeah, the Rebbe was, I'm not holding anybody's feet to the fire. You know what? You do it. Call me when you're done. So that's it. Call me when you're done. We don't, the storyline of I'm irredeemable, but I'm on board for redeeming the rest of the world. That's a fake. That's a fake.
Right. The Rebbe wants you to be on the ship.
Or the other version of it. I'm okay considering, what a lowly generation we are, and I'm okay. So whatever I am, like the Rebbe says.
If whatever it is making you say that you don't have to work on it, that's not the answer.
Like the Rebbe says, he's a denu b'yadusa because he knows that he puts on tefillin and he wears tzitzis and he eats kosher, so he knows that he's fine. I'm saying, I'm fine, but I don't think the Rebbe expects more from me. He knows who I am, and he knows that's the other way of going about it. But whatever it is, these storylines, there's more and more schools opening up in Lubavitch where they want to lower the standards. Really? That's the message you got from the Nalef and Beis, that we need more schools with lower standards, with less expectations, with less Titus HaKadosh, it's ridiculous. It's not, she said, well, because they're bad people. No, they're not bad people. They are a more exaggerated version of the same story that the guys with the beards and all the frumishtik tell themselves. Listen, I know who I am. I'm not, I'm no great shakes. Obviously, I would love to Rebbe, and I'd love to see Moshiach come, and I love this. And I'm willing to, the other guy is willing to run around and do something about it. I'm willing to write a check.
This is really what the Rebbe says in Chaisara, that Lohavi, and this that wetten them, he'll wait around, wetten them until them. No, Lohavi, go. It's on you. You have to go do it.
That's it. But listen, it's all of these things, and the same thing with all of the distractions. Now, Mashpiyam are meeting. The new crisis is that Bachram are looking for guidance in life from Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. Really? Okay, that's the new problem. Okay, listen, Baruch Hashem, we're not talking about the Bachram who the other things that there are on the internet that you can get fakrachen. That's we're not talking about. Fine. But really, that's a bacha. In other words, you got an education in the Rebbe's Torah. You got an education. You sold him on the Rebbe's vision of the world to the point that he thought, what's a great idea? Let me go to Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. Obviously, it's not. He doesn't get it. He doesn't see it. He's not. If we have more and more therapists hanging out shingles in Crown Heights, and more people inventing their own Hasidic therapies and their own because that's it. People are walking around feeling tzibrochen, they're feeling tag, they're feeling this, and they are not feeling that we're being presented with a redemptive vision that I can walk forward, I can walk towards, I don't feel like there's something that I can excitedly march towards. it's you'll see guys that look like you'll see guys, from the Lubavitch families on sichos Torah that look like they put on a yarmulke just for sichos Torah, singing, marching to the gula with the Rebbe Shlita with tears running down their face, and that part everybody got. Not that part, marching to the gula with the Rebbe Shlita. I'm gonna be the guy. I put on, and he means it, and he's jumping up and down, he's crying, and it's this and for real. He's not faking it. Not putting on a show for anybody. He's drunk off his mind anyway. So if it's not real, he's a really good faker. But no, it's very real. It's very real. It's in his kishkas. Marching to the gula with the Rebbe Shlita is in his kishkas. But it's not. But it's not something that has to do with real life. It's not something that has to do with real life. It has to do with it's the Nakuda Mamun of the Yidden of Mitzrayim. That's not what the Gula Shlem is. The Gula Shlem is supposed to be not like the Gula of Mitzrayim. In some ways it's similar. In some ways it's supposed to be we're going there because that's what we're holding. That's what we're ready. That's what we're ready for. That's what we're holding. Not oy vey. What am I going to do with all these? What am I going to do with all these slaves and all this money? I'm going to become even worse than I am already. Now. If that's how you look at the world, if that's how you look at reality, then you're not really looking forward to the Gula. You sort of on some level feel that something, whether it's guilt or whether it's just the makif of it, that you're very caught up in the makif of it, that they did that. This is what I need to do, even if I'm not on board. The Rebbe says, you know what? I need you on board. That's it. I need you on board. I need you to buy into that. I need you to be going out. I need you to go out to Kiddush Levana because you're going out to accept Mashiach. You're going out to pictures as David Malcolm because wow, yeah. Oh, this is my mom learning. Wow, what will it be like when Mashiach comes and I can actually see it? How awesome would that be? How exciting would that be that I actually see? I can learn this b'derech re'iyah. This would be amazing. We don't talk to ourselves that way. We don't talk to each other that way. We don't talk about it as what's the reality of it. Can you even picture the reality? Do you have any kind of picture you could offer somebody who sincerely wants to know? Most people will not ask. That's reality. People are too cool to ask stuff like, what's it going to be like? Everyone's way too cool. Everyone's way too smart. Fine. So what? But you see, they're getting excited about Jordan Peterson's vision of the world. They're getting excited about Ben Shapiro's vision of the world. How did you not getting them excited about the Rebbe Mashiach's vision of the world? Even if they're. And by the way, one of the Mashpiyim I heard talking about, he didn't mention the names, but it was a Mashpiyim.
Okay.
One of these.
Can we finish off with this story?
I'm sorry.
We have to finish, so let's finish off with this story, and then we'll.
I'm just saying.
We'll call it a night.
This is the Rebbe believes in us. The Rebbe loves us. All that stuff that they talk about at the Fabrengens, that's all true. It's not just that's just feel good stuff at the Fabrengens. But you have to make it true in your everyday life. You have to make it true that the Rebbe, yes, he believes in us, way, way, way beyond anything we're willing to believe in ourselves. And therefore, the eitz is not to wait until I believe in myself. The eitz is put one foot in front of the other. Start doing it. Start doing the things that the Rebbe describes. Start doing the things. Yes, take out that sefer of the Mittler Rebbe's Chassidus. Take out that. Just do it. If you just do it, you will be shocked to discover, literally, your life changing. And by the way, that's the line you've used with any other person you ever reached out to, any kid in release time, the guy in Shlichus. You said the exact same words to him, and you won't say them. We don't like saying them to ourselves. Just do it. Do it. You'll see. Wow. But you'll see. Okay. Again, it won't be sound and light show. It'll be you're gonna wake up one morning and you can look back, and you're gonna say, you know what? I think I want to own a pair of tefillin. I don't want to have to keep coming. I think I want to. That's it. What happened? What changed? What was the big reveal? What was the big climactic scene? Nothing happened. It happens. It happens from
just doing it.
Out. And you got to do it. But you have to be. doing it as part of the program, not doing it for your own thing. Because
like Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Yes, if you're doing it as part of the program for Kabbalah, you will be blown away by you literally be able to look back at yourself and earlier versions of yourself, and you'll be able to say, I cannot believe I used to be that guy.
Wow.
You will literally be able to look back and say, I cannot believe I used to be that guy. And you'll also say, I can't believe that I still get hung up on the same stupid things that I used to get hung up on. Because the Yetzirah still sells me the same old stupid stuff, and I'll still fall for it. If I'm not alert, I will still fall for the same stupider than stupid. It will literally convince you to do things that make you sick, that make you nauseous. You don't even like, you're not even interested in. You're gonna feel bad afterwards. You don't feel that great during. You say, oh, but I can't. Because the real job is when the Rebbe gives it over to you in your hands. The real job is I can. That shift that you have to do in your head.
You can.
Takes care of everything.
All right.
I can, not because I'm special.
Not because
I am, and I have to learn those in my mind and explain.
You got to do it. You got to do it because you're Chassid of the Rebbe, and that's it.
That's it. Because I was given the sichos, and I was given the abilities, and those sichos come from the Rebbe. They come from the Torah mitzvahs. They come from my Etzem Anashama. They come from wherever you want them from. They're coming. But
they're coming.
Then nothing happens unless you get up and say, I can, and I do. You got to do it.
Got to do it. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Okay, good night.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we want Mashiach now. Mashiach should come right now. And
take it from Yad Mamish, and we'll figure out the rest afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, good.